Hi everyone, this is Saud Masood. Welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about failure. So I was at this conference, and right after the conference, a young gentleman comes up to me, shakes my hand and says, "Look, I am really excited to become an entrepreneur, but I'm also really scared of failure." And then he goes on to list four things that really bother him about becoming an entrepreneur. He says to me, "What if my business model fails? What if my financing fails? What if my relationships suffer and they fail? What if I'm a societal failure?" And he explains the last one as society's expectations of him getting married in the next 2 years and then having the statistical average 3.5 kids. Look, I get it. It's perfectly understandable. I respect that opinion, but I also respectfully disagree with that opinion. In my world, the four failures, as I would classify, are as following. To me, failure is when somebody is aimless, they lack purpose, they're careless, they lack conviction, they give up too soon, they lack persistence, they're subjective, which means they lack honesty. Look, these four things you control. You don't control market forces. You don't control industry trends. You don't control what's going to happen to your family members or yourself. What you do control is, are you giving your all or not? Simple as that. Are you dedicated? Are you committed? Are you honest? Yes or no? And to me, if in these four areas you lack somewhere, then that's where your failure point is. At an individual level. But look, I'll take it a step further. It's not just about that. It's about knowing the difference between failing and being a failure. So you can fail at something again and again, and it's perfectly okay. You know, the late Steve Jobs used to talk about failing early and failing forward. And what he meant by that was, you're young, take risks in life early, and then learn from those risks and try not to make the same mistake again and again. So make the right mistakes at the right time. So let's say between you and success, there are, 20 failures. So go from failure 1 to failure 2 to failure 3 to failure 18, 19, and then failure 20. And after failure 20, hopefully you have success and abundance. And that's the idea. Failure is guaranteed, by the way. Right? So just understand, you just have to not make the same mistake again and again. I think I made my point clear in terms of how you should perceive failure. But let me just give you quick tips on how to mitigate or hedge against failure. Because I know we're human beings. I don't want us to get exhausted in this battle to overcome various failures. Right? So my suggestion to you would be, number one is plan. A great plan will never be able to factor in everything that's going to happen to you and your company. But guess what? It's going to give you the calmness and the composure to go through the ups and downs. Number two, build a learnings database. That goes back to my earlier point about failing forward. Every time you make a mistake, do a post-mortem on it. So let's say if you were not able to close a sales deal for whatever reason, figure out why. Was it the wrong pricing? Was it the wrong incentive? Was it the product wasn't ready? Whatever the case may be. And please make sure, if I'm talking to the founders right now, if you're the leaders, it starts and stops with you, period. No blame game, no finger pointing. Number three, this is especially true for the young entrepreneurs. Develop mental maturity. And what I mean by that is, a lot of these young guys, they start a plan, and then 6 months later, things start falling apart, and they let doubt creep in to the point that it can paralyze their execution. That's not healthy. A little bit of doubt is fantastic, but to the point where your team starts falling apart internally, that's not healthy. Have the mental maturity to ride the storm through. Whatever you're planning, guess what? It's not going to happen. It's probably going to be 10 times worse. But you will get through this. Okay? That's why you do your homework before you jump into something. Number four, know your failure points in advance. And that essentially is that I don't care what business model you have. Every single business model on the face of the earth has some weakness, has some vulnerability. You should know where you're strong in your product or service and where the barriers to entry are lower, or let's say there's high risk to your business model. And you should know that if your business fails, it most likely will fail because of these 2, 3, 4 reasons. Try to minimize those reasons and try to hedge against those reasons. These are the sort of the red spots, these are the red zones in your business model. Know them in advance and try to protect against them, play defense against them as you evolve your critical mass or go towards your critical mass. And the last point is, number 5, continuously test your hypothesis via mini experiments. It's just a fancy way of saying this. Don't be overconfident. Somebody's always better, faster, cheaper, stronger, and can give more value to the customer, can bring more value to the market. So don't overestimate yourself and underestimate others. Make sure you're constantly evolving the product with the market. But I also understand that it's costly. It's not that simple to say just keep doing it, right? It costs money, it costs time, it costs resources. So what you do is you try to do these mini experiments. Don't do these elaborate rollouts. Try to test the market in baby steps. At least this way you'll have the pulse of the market and you will have the ability to pivot, evolve the product a certain way or service a certain way. And in worst case scenario, let's say, you are able to fight to live another day because you saw the signals ahead of time. You saw that there was something happening in the market that could be a threat to your product. But guess what? Because you were testing the market constantly, you were serving the market constantly, you were able to pick up on the signals, you were able to adapt a little bit, you were able to kind of, again, ride the storm a little bit. Okay? So I hope this discussion, these tips, these pointers were helpful to you. I wish you all the very best. I thank you so much for listening. And as always, go after it.